I'd learn another lesson from this lesson tree. I closed my eyes and asked Spirit to help me see. I looked in the mirror and felt the energy. Teach me the way to love clearly. I asked for courage to face my enemies. I asked for wisdom to know when it's me. All of these mirrors in the people surrounding me teach me the way to listen carefully. How many times have I been told, girl, don't fly so high, you'll fall. But maybe if you're never told to fear the ground will float and never quite come down. 'Cause once you're in, you know it's just a dream. I want to learn to live peacefully, know how to bend without breaking. None of these lessons worth learning are easy. Teach me to fear nothing and love fearlessly. How many times have I been told, girl, don't fly so high, you'll fall. But maybe if you're never told to fear the ground will float and never quite come down. 'Cause once you're in, you know it's just a dream. La-da-da-da-dee-dum-dum-dum. Hey, hey, yeah. La-da-da-da-dee-dum-dum-dum. Hey, hey, yeah. La-da-da-da-dee-dum-dum-dum. La-da-da-da-dee-dum-dum-dum. La-da-dee-dum-dum-dum. La-da-dee-dum-dum-dum.
Well, welcome everyone. We are so thrilled that all of you could join us tonight to celebrate Gina and Adrienne and the launch of their new books. A very special thanks to Kelly Hepper for providing the music for our event. Kelly is the lead singer of the Soul Doctors from Madison, Wisconsin. So be sure to check them out and find out more about their work after the event. I am Anthony Dieris, and I am truly honored that Gina and Adrienne asked me to host their book launch. Not only are they both talented and dedicated writers, they are two of my best friends whose work I've respected and admired since we first met almost 13 years ago in our MFA program at the University of Southern Maine. That's also where we met the great poet Tim Seibles, who is joining us here tonight as well. In many ways, a book launch is like a wedding, a gathering of people from all different parts of your life, people that have always rooted for you, always knew this day would come. Family and friends and mentors and colleagues, former and current students, longtime fans and new readers, all here to celebrate you and be inspired by you. So with that, I'd like to propose a toast. So if everyone could Please raise your glasses, your mugs, your thermoses, whatever is your Zoom drink of choice. To Gina and Adrienne, may your writing continue to guide you and your readers through darkness and light. May your books be windows, vantage points for us to see you and see ourselves. Cheers. It is now my great pleasure to turn it over to former Poet Laureate of Virginia and author of many, many incredible collections of poetry, Tim Seibles.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Everybody can hear me okay? All right. Yeah, indeed. It's lovely always to be in the company of my former Stone Coast brethren and sistren. So I'm really happy to be here. And I'm especially happy to introduce Adrienne Wallner and her delicious new book, To the 4 a.m. Light, a collection of poems which is in so many ways a perfect emblem of Adrienne's spirit, the sensitive and tough-minded fire that powers her life. I was lucky enough to know Adrienne when she was an MFA student at the Stone Coast program in Maine. I had taught for many years in many places, but it was extremely rare to find a developing poet who wielded a sizzling imagination, exceptional intelligence, a quiet ferocity, and most importantly, the will to enact all of these things in words. I love poetry because it helps me stay awake in a world that seems determined to have all of us sleepwalk our lives away in shopping malls, on Facebook, or in front of television and computer screens, which is simply unacceptable. In this book in particular, I meant to say this earlier, what I love about this is that the lives of women and the life of a single woman feature prominently in this collection. But as a man, I found these poems both informative and deeply moving. This book, this extended prayer to the 4 a.m. light, is filled with the kind of poems that remind me, and I think will remind every reader, of what's really what with being human, being attentive to our lives that are both wondrous and terrible every day. In the blurb for this collection, I said, there are wild swerves of imagination here, but also the clarity of thought that proves again and again how badly we need language that is both honest and fearless. I read poetry to be shown what is often hidden or simply missed. This book is a lantern, and this book is a lantern. And with that, I hope everyone will help me in welcoming Adrienne Wallner to the stage, Zoom stage though it may be.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Tim. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I really appreciate you being here, and Gina and Anthony and Kelly and all of you out there in the Zoomverse. I see you all, your names coming up and your pictures, and thank you all so much for being here to celebrate with us. I really appreciate it. All right. Let's see here. Night thaw. Mute blue ice knocks, swells, and moans, round hollow whale moans that ricochet beneath the surface of Chain Lake. Glacial gestures melt, crack, shrink, freeze. Movement by altering molecular structure. Movement not seen, but heard. Groans bend their echoes bottom up, bouncing thick waves that grow louder in the crisp still of darkness. A bright white moon alights the uneven, tirelessly repeated thaw and freeze. A great spectral bellow, a grand scraping, beautiful sound of science. Melting motion amplified, tumbling into itself, reverberating each minute shift. Bottomless voices mumble bubbles, below drowned growls, and deep creeks that whiplash between shorelines where fragile ice edges heave. I close my eyes and inhale the sonic atmosphere. I feel the lake lean, crystal edges crinkling as they reach into the water between beaches, coaxing the dark body that speaks these frozen tongues. To the 4 a.m. light. When I opened my eyes, you were unexpected. You, a shimmering white square, draped over the edge of the bed, aside my akimbo limbs and muted motion. A slumber-logged body, unaware and unprepared for such a bright, defined light. The only barrier between us, the shadow of my comforter, a feather and warmth wall separating your surprise from my thighs. I assume the moon is huge, full, determined. It's the only way you could have cut through the deep November night framed in my bedroom skylight. You, 4 a.m. light, brazen, bold, and bright, drifting through the darkness to my bedside. In my sleep stupor, I did not know where you had come from, only that you had come, and that you would not leave until morning shoved you over the edge of the roof. I closed my eyes and imagined you beneath the covers, lighting the places in me too dark for anyone else to see. Long distance postmark. Light cut across the room like warm, fleshy knives, sinking into my skin. A feeling too hot, too much like desire and obsession to shine away the sickness that lived beneath the sheets and fed on my bones. From millions of miles away, the sun cooked me in my own juices. I could only imagine how hot it must have been where you were. You who was living in sand and lying in letters. The curls of your script averting my eyes with sweet swears of how I was the only word in your mouth, the only tongue on your skin, the only body in your memory. I sat steaming over what I did not know, when I did not sleep, why I did not see your shadow swell the lonesome light pillaring the length of my empty hallway. But I was not the only one waiting for your long-distance postmark. P.S. Years after I forgave you, I found your letters and burned them all in my backyard. Watching the flames consume the serpent twist of your penmanship, I smiled, and envelopes became ashes. Disquiet. Solar storms and stomach aches, feeding anxiety, encouraging mistakes, drawing anger out, shoveling worry in. Every night's sleep seems to wake as soon as it begins. Drenched in sweat, I am boiled awake, hours away from a lucid state. My eyes snap open, I hurl my covers aside, and fumble for my phone to check the time. The unnatural blaze of cellular light that we now completely accept as just part of our life informs me that it's 3 in the morning. Why the fuck am I awake? As usual, checking the phone was a mistake. The luminescent rabbit hole that tempts to trivial and text as we numbly type and swipe to the next and the next. I didn't have to look. What difference did it make? I still wish I was sleeping, and I'm still awake. But these days, who still lies still in sleeplessness's dark embrace? Who doesn't reach for their personal distraction database? How have we arrived in this place where our eyes thirst for screens and our hands are constantly occupied by gleaming machines? This desire for answers sooner than instantly, before immediately, and quicker than now has left us less able to comprehend somehow that our addiction to knowing is not as intelligent as it seems, as ideas give way to updates and devices replace dreams.
Gathering storm, nursing her wrath to keep it warm.
I don't know what that was.
Malfunction.
Somebody's on. An offering along the Menominee River. I wake to worship the day that has risen with me. Nothing but the tight teeth of my tent zipper keeps me from receiving the communion of morning. I coax the zipper over tender spots of wear and open my mouth, inviting the virgin air to spread across my tongue and plunge into my lungs. Placing my hands firmly on the ground, I slide my body out to enter the outside as it enters my insides. Naked knees press on the menagerie of soil and seed. I am alone and only in the early morning breeze. I am everything around me. I am roots and rising trees. I stand and step and step and stride, allowing the riverbank to be my guide. My bare feet track over acorns that feel like tiny bones, picking up pine pitch, affixing small stones. I lift my eyes and gather light that does not yet know shadow, morning light, pure white, halo bright. There is no one here. I am alone. I am light. I am free. I am clear. I am the only singer of this psalm. I gather acorns and run my fingers over each, tracing continuous circles, learning the story of every seed. I repeat their journey to myself until the words swell like wind and swim through my bones, until they speak themselves in a low, airy moan. I grow, I live, I die, I grow. I grow, I live, I die, I grow, I live. Softly fingering the rosary of nature, it is here that I practice my religion, my undying devotion as I revel in the ecstasy of earth. I walk to the edge of the riverbank, hold myself steady, and close my eyes. I release my vestments and reveal myself to the sky. My body laid bare across sun-soaked rocks, I make an offering to the day. The wind blesses my skin in places it has never been, and I begin to sway. I stand with my body against the current as the air pours over me, like the tide over time, like a wave I cannot catch. My body a dam in the stream, a rock in the stream of creation's soft breath. And I've probably got time for one more here. On the day before June, dozens of bright blue damselflies dart and hover over the pond. Green and silver dragonflies tip and careen from reed tip to lily pad. The twangy echo of a bullfrog beneath the dock, a slight splash where I'm not watching. Breeze blows across the pond, ripples folding and flooding over themselves. Huge white clouds move steadily east, bulbous bodies trembling in their wrinkled reflection. I notice how quiet the dragonflies are. Unlike the buzzing bees and dive-bombing flies, the dragonflies cascade through the air with barely a flutter sound, with wings that gently whisper a cellophane crinkle. I startle a slender snake from the marshy edge. It's gone before I realize where it's going. A yellow swallowtail butterfly glides overhead, then another. They disappear on the breeze as quickly as they came. And my husband's showing me my timer, and I have time for one more.
Read them all. Read them all.
All right. Olfactory. It was something having to do with the smell of coffee, or was it smoke? Orange trees or new rubber, or something much more singular, like a sweat-soaked cloth cord necklace that strangled a chipped Chinese character. I never knew its translation, maybe courage or magic, though caution would have been more fitting. A thick, sweet skin smell that clung to the cord and comforted until it revolted. Or clothes that had been lived in for too many days, gripping a scent like wet, like almost sour, like hiding. It called to me, like a bakery or a barbecue or one of those stands that sells cinnamon and sugar-coated nuts shoveled hot into red and white checked paper cones, like something I knew better about. It said, "Come closer. Follow my veiled trail until you are right beside me. And just try not to breathe me in deeper. Try not to gasp and gulp until you are filled with rich rolling waves of bittersweet burnt sugar, the astringent sting of menthol muscle salve, the metallic inhale of approaching snow." Thank you. Thank you.
Well, when Adrienne asked me to do music for her book launch, I was like, well, it only makes sense if I were to write a song in response to your work. So I'm glad Adrienne read Long Distance Postmark, because I have turned it into song. Light cut across the room like a warm knife, sinking into my skin. Feeling too hot, too much like desire to cut away the sickness that lived between the sheets. Fed on my bones. From a million miles away, the sun cooked me in my own juices. I could only imagine how hard it must have been where you sweet swears of how I was the only word in your mouth, the only tongue on your skin, the only body in your memory. Sat steaming over what I did not know. When I did not sleep, why did I not see your shadow? I was not the only one waiting for your long distant postmark. I was not the only one waiting for your long distant postmark. Years later, I forgave you, and when I found your letters, I burned them all in my backyard. I watched the flames turn your penmanship into ash. I smiled as it all became ash.
Kelly, thank you so much for that beautiful song. And Adrienne, thank you for reading your beautiful poems. It is now my pleasure to introduce Gina. Whoa, okay. When Gina asked if I would introduce her at our book launch, I said, absolutely, of course, no question. I mean, it'd be kind of weird if I didn't, right? Considering this book is basically mine too. To be honest, I was a little disappointed when I saw the cover and didn't see "with Anthony Dieris" below Gina's name. I thought we talked about that, Gina. I guess it was one of those last-minute marketing changes that authors have no control over. But seriously, I realized as I was writing this introduction that I've known Gina's book for as long as I've known her. Those early drafts I read for our MFA workshops evolved into essays I read for our writing group after graduate school, and eventually became the full manuscript for her memoir that is now the book we're here to celebrate. So our friendship and her book grew alongside each other. I would not know her as well as I do if her book didn't exist, if she hadn't trusted me with those early versions. Looking back on those drafts is like looking at old photos of yourself and a good friend. I think as writers, we're often trying to return to a place of innocence, to think, however briefly, like a child, free of judgment and inhibition. I've always admired Gina's ability to write from the perspective of her younger self, the little girl alone at night in her bedroom, or the teenager camping in the desert. The way she helps us see the world from a less cynical, more hopeful point of view. I'm grateful to have known her and her writing for all these years, because while we're here tonight to celebrate the culmination of her work, I know well, and she knows well, that this night was a long time coming. Gina is one of the most dedicated and hardworking writers I know, and it's no wonder that the moments of pain and trauma in her memoir are buoyed by powerful undercurrents of perseverance and hope. I've been looking forward to saying this for well over 10 years. Please welcome Gina Troisi, author of the memoir, The Angle of Flickering Light.
Anthony, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you all so much for being here. Adrienne, your reading was so beautiful, and I'm not going to say much more because I'm going to cry. But thank you. It's true that Anthony, we joke that he's basically the co-author. We've been exchanging writing for years and years and years, so he deserves this launch as much as we do. Anyway, I'm going to read a chapter from the middle of the book. It's called Tomorrow, and it can stand on its own mostly, but just a few details that will help are the three main characters are the narrator, her boyfriend, John, who is struggling with a heroin addiction, and his 6-year-old son, Jacob. And the narrator and John both work at the same restaurant, him cooking and her waiting tables and bartending. So I think that's all I need to say. It's called Tomorrow. One winter day, a couple of months after John left rehab, the three of us walked through town. Jacob's skin raw, his tiny hands red and swollen from the New England air. "Daddy, I'm freezing," he said, a small cry escaping. "I know, hon, I know." John stopped and bent down so he was eye level with his son. He cupped his own hands around his nose and mouth, breathed into them, then fastened them around Jacob's. He rubbed his son's palms together to generate some kind of heat. Jacob's grandmother had forgotten to pack his mittens, and I knew John blamed her. But I also knew it might have been the result of a miscommunication or the rushed exchange of the overnight bag or an impulsive change in schedule due to his needing to find a fix. The three of us walked, our eyes focused on the road ahead. We wove down the streets of our broken down yet up and coming mill town, a place that mixed transients and townies and college students. Past the hardware store and the $4 movie theater, past the homeless woman pushing her shopping cart down the sidewalk. Our legs raced with the urge of the brisk, bitter season, of a gray, silent sky, of snow about to fall. John and I were in the business of moving. We worked long days, him grilling steaks and sprinkling Parmesan on pasta, me pouring beers and mixing martinis, scampering up and down the stairs, carrying trays of food and empty, dirty plates. Hours flew by when we didn't stop to eat or break for the bathroom or even wipe sweat from our foreheads, our lower backs. Other times, when the restaurant was slow, we met in the basement, where empty liquor bottles piled up behind the ice machine and the linen dryer hummed. We sank down into crevices and corners, finding warmth in closeness, hiding away like creatures who crawled into small spaces, searching for morsels of food. We were beyond hungry. Underneath the weight of one another, our bare bodies shed layers of who we had been. Our coming together, a mutual understanding that the only thing we had to hold on to was now. And then we did it all over again. Jacob kept walking. We all did, crossing the intersections and side streets, passing the concrete building with the mural of trees and rivers, the music store with guitars and drums displayed in the window. John and I were on either side of Jacob, clasping his hands. His palm was so small it felt fake to me, its size a reminder of a doll I once owned, except for the prominent blue veins, the pulse of blood. He was quiet now, as if, at least for this moment, he had accepted his fate. I missed his voice, its rasp and pitch, its sweetness coating the knowledge of where he might be, if not here with us. I grabbed onto Jacob tighter, holding the puffy sleeve of his coat as we scrambled down icy sidewalks, his cheeks splotched with red, his eyes watering. He began to cry again, and I wanted to put him into a car, blast the heat, ask a driver to deliver us to a house where chicken soup was warming on the stove, hot chocolate steaming from a mug. A traditional house with 2 married parents and a dog scurrying from room to room, with enough food and clothes and lots of books. But we were headed somewhere else. We had gone too far to turn back now. Walking was the way we traveled. We spent entire days trudging through snow, traipsing through pouring rain. We watched the ash trees and birches grow leaves that turned red and orange, pungent colors that exploded before departing, their skeletal branches patched with snow. We roamed underneath the sweltering heat of the sun. In motion, we remade ourselves, distracted by the notion of having to be everywhere and nowhere at once. In constant flux, we dared to forget the main mission, John seeking out a substance, the substance that made him whole, a powder that had changed the chemistry of his brain. When John was not around, I walked Jacob to the store and bought cigarettes while he looked for a new toy. Anything you want, I told him, and I watched his eyes widen at the sight of a miniature helicopter or car, his excitement making me believe, at least for a short time, that he was a child who might have enough. These were the moments I focused on, the scenes I chose to see, the way any mind in any situation convinces itself that tomorrow will be better. We walked. We walked to escape the cold, but we were pinned down by its claws. I told myself we were meeting someone along this meandering path, someone who would take Jacob home, where there was heat, but this person was a hologram in my mind. John looked at me, then down at his son. He nudged his chin in his direction, then lifted his eyes to meet mine. It will be okay, I mouthed, and I realized I had become a person who uttered this absurd statement. How when I was young, if someone had said this to me, I never would have heard it above the noise of my father's yelling, the inevitability of his leaving. I would have known better. But now I wanted to believe these words as I met John's gray eyes, still lighter than this dark sky, these clouds about to break open and release their wrath. We were in the business of doing. There was seldom time to think. Inside the kitchen, John pulled baskets from grease, flipped meat on the grill, slid sheet pans from the oven within 30-second time frames. I placed mounds of lettuce onto plates, garnished them with slices of tomato and carrots. We worked double shifts, 14-hour days of dashing past one another, the smell of wine and sweat, glasses clinking with ice as we scuttled into back rooms to smoke joints, to gulp shots of booze. On days when John had no time to leave the kitchen, he poured cooking wine into cups, drank vodka used for sauces from a straw. After we punched out, he hurried off toward what mattered to him most, and I was left waiting, wanting him. In the evenings, when he returned, we stayed up for hours while most of the world slept. We talked and tossed underneath the covers, gave in to our inability to pull our hands from one another. We became preoccupied with skin. We guzzled wine from the bottle and watched one another by the light of candles. And I forgot about his disappearing and reappearing, my hoping that we would both be able to find a way out. While we walked, the wind bit and stung my skin. My legs tingled with cold. John and I were accustomed to the chill, the sharp absence of relief. It had numbed us time and time again. But I felt guilty about Jacob's quiet cry, his knowing that everything and nothing would be okay. Should we stop at the store to warm up? I asked, pointing to the 7-Eleven on the corner. Not yet, Jacob said, his face serious. We headed over the bridge, crossed the river where teenagers hung out on skateboards in summer, above the nooks of wood and rock where they got high, and we glided across a parking lot, down a brick path that led to the restaurant where we worked, blasting into the back door of the kitchen. A haven of warm air rushed at us. One of the servers crouched down to greet Jacob, hugged him before holding his face in her hands. "You're freezing," she said. "I know." Behind the chef's line, our coworker dropped frozen chicken tenders in oil, the temperature cranked up high, the grease sizzling. "You hungry, buddy?" he asked, looking down at Jacob, who grinned, already beginning to tug on his coat sleeves. John grabbed his apron from the shelf in the corner of the kitchen, reached to place it over Jacob's head, spun him around so he could tie it behind his waist. "The hat, too," Jacob said, and John took the snow hat from his son's head, replaced it with a white chef's hat, sizes and sizes too big. After Jacob had run around the kitchen with a spatula in his hand, taken inventory of the condiments in the fridge, talked with the chef about the best way to cook eggs, he followed us up the stairs to the lounge. We sat at a table near the bar and fireplace, and John cut the chicken tenders for Jacob, who received them piece by piece, smothering them in ketchup. When Jacob was finished with his food, we headed to the pool table, John lifting him up, guiding him on how to shoot, the balls clanging across the green felt. I sat and watched, tucked my knees up into my chest, sipped on my drink. A new waitress who I had only met once approached me. Her long braided hair extended to the top of her thighs. It must be nice to have the day off, especially with the little one and all, she said. I smiled, but I did not correct her, didn't bother to tell her that Jacob was not mine, that his mother was out of the picture, that his father had a love greater than the two of us, because at this moment, none of it mattered. What mattered was that we were in a toasty room with full bellies and satiated minds, that for those minutes and hours, this little boy was filled with the pleasures of being young, that this finding of warmth had been within our control when almost everything else was beyond our grasp. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you, Kelly, for your amazing music.
You're welcome. It's my
I feel like I
pleasure.
missed that in my whirlwind there, and we're very grateful.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited. Well, this is the first time that Gina will have heard her song. So just like Adrienne's, I wanted to do music in response to her art. And so I read the memoir and I took note of all the phrases that kind of hit me. And then I got stuck. So then I sent it on to Adrienne and she arranged it into a poem pretty much. So then I took that and made that into a song. So that's what we got going on here. And I think it's really special the way we did this. Born into dissonance, my mind's a patchwork quilt. I'd float or I'd flounder, never stopping to assess the depth of the water. My boundaries were non-existent, the way the ocean blends into the sky. We were two bodies or one, depending on the angle of the flickering light. And I moved in circles and repeated patterns, making my way out of this cycle, learning my lessons over and over. And I moved in circles and I'm seeing patterns, seeking a way out of this cycle, learning my lessons over and over again, over and over again. Heartbreak full of hope, I wanna leave my pain in this city. Though time had released me, you crept up into my dreams with your gray eyes. And I moved in circles, repeated patterns, seeking a way out of this cycle, learning my lessons over and over. And moved in circles, repeating patterns, seeking a way out of this cycle, learning my lessons over and over again, over and over again, making my way out over and over again. The most important journey is when you go inside yourself, and in the pink hues of dawn I sprung from where the ocean and the sky is I'm seeking the way out of this cycle, learning my lessons over and over, and I move through cycles, and I'm seeing patterns. I'm making my way out through this spiral, and learning my lessons over and over again, over and over again, making my way out over and over again, yeah. Over and over again.
That was amazing, Kelly. Thank you so much. I couldn't have ever imagined that.
Isn't that cool? I just think
Yeah.
I just think we're the coolest guys.
You
Go
guys
team.
are. You guys are. And I'm so, yeah. And thank you, Adrienne, the poet.
She's amazing. You guys are all amazing.
Go team. That was awesome. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Yeah, wow, that was incredible. I can't, this went so well, you guys. This was amazing. You guys are incredible.
I know, we did it.
Yeah. Some folks have been asking about where they can hear more from Kelly, and maybe at some point maybe have access to these songs in some
I
way.
would love to. I will record these real good. So make sure you all are on Gina and Adrienne's email list or whatnot. And you can even hop over to my band website and hop on my email list, and I'll blast out when I get the stuff recorded.
Awesome.
But
Thank
I
you so
literally
much.
just put the songs. Gina's song just solidified right before I got in the car to drive down to Florida. So this is hot off the press.
Amazing.
I love that. I love this, just like everyone coming together, the spontaneity. It's really incredible. I shared some links in the chat that you're welcome to copy and paste, save for later to take a look at, info on everybody that spoke tonight. The very last thing that we're going to do is a signed book giveaway. So we randomly pulled out some names from everybody that attended, and 2 people will get signed copies of both Adrienne's and Gina's book. So those names are Mary O'Brien and Ning Sullivan.
Yay.
So congratulations. You don't have to do anything. We will reach out to you and get an address that we can send those books to you. But congratulations, you both won copies of the books. And that is it, folks. Thank you again to Adrienne. Thank you again to Gina and Tim and Kelly. I'm going to put up a screen at the end with some info about everybody, but thank you all for coming. We had folks from all over the country, such a good turnout, and just thank you all.
Thank you. We're so
And thank you,
grateful.
Anthony.
Yes, thank you, Anthony.
And
for
everybody
being
that
there.
registered, I will
Yeah, it was great, Anthony. And it was great.
I will email
Gina
all of
and
everybody's links.
Adrienne, it's great. Wonderful.
Oh.
Yay.
Oh.